started ignoring it. What else could I do? It didn't flicker. It didn't hum. It just stood there, glowing steadily soft, golden, unchanging. At night, it didn't light the room so much as stain it, like a memory leaking through the wallpaper. I tried covering it with a blanket once, but when I woke up, the blanket was folded neatly on the couch, and the lamp was uncovered again, still glowing. I left the apartment for a weekend, stayed at my sister's place. When I came back Sunday evening, everything was exactly as I'd left it, except the lamp. It had moved 3 inches to the left, just enough to center itself again with the window, like it preferred that angle, like it remembered how the room used to be arranged. And then the dreams started. I would wake at exactly 9 a.m., the room bathed in that too warm, too still glow. I'd sit up, feeling like someone had been standing next to the bed just a moment before. No movement, no noise, just the lingering pressure of presence. In the dreams, I was in the same apartment, but older, or maybe it wasn't me at all. Just someone wearing my skin, my voice, walking in circles between the kitchen and the lamp, always stopping in front of it, whispering something I never remembered upon waking. One night, I taped a piece of paper to the lamp's base, just a note that read, "Please stop." It was silly, desperate. But when I woke the next morning, someone or something had written below my words in a soft, slanted hand, "I can't. You left me on." The pen I'd used was still on the table, cap off. My hand was clean. My apartment was locked. After that, I stopped touching the lamp. But it began to change anyway. The glow started to pulse, barely perceptible, like a heartbeat. I noticed that certain objects near it would disappear for a few hours, then return slightly altered. A book I hadn't opened in years was suddenly bookmarked to the final page. A photo frame held a picture I didn't recognize me, standing in the room, wearing clothes I'd never owned, smiling, with someone cropped out beside me. I called the building manager, asked about the previous tenants. He said the last person had broken their lease suddenly and wouldn't say why. Just left in the middle of the night. When I pressed further, he hesitated, then said one thing. They kept complaining about a lamp. Said it followed them. Now I leave it alone. I live around it. But some nights, I feel like the room shifts toward it, like the walls, the furniture, even time itself is slowly rearranging to accommodate something old, something that doesn't want to be forgotten. And every night at 9, when the air goes still and the shadows get deeper, the glow isn't just light, it's memory, and it wants to stay. I stopped questioning it out loud. There's something about saying things that makes them stronger, more permanent. I kept the footage on my phone, watching that flicker over and over, frame by frame, as if I could catch it breathing. But it never moved. It didn't need to. Just standing there was enough. I showed the video to a friend once. She laughed nervously, said it was probably a shadow from outside. But there were no windows behind the lamp. only wall, brick and plaster, nothing behind it, and still the figure cast light in the wrong direction. One night, I stayed up just to see it happen for myself. I turned off every light in the apartment except that one, sat on the floor in the dark, camera pointed toward it, coffee in hand. 30M. The light was steady. 35. No sound, no movement. 38. I thought I heard something creak in the hallway, but I didn't turn. I watched the lamp. At exactly 39, it pulsed. Not flickered, pulsed, like it inhaled. A wave of warmth brushed over my face, and for a second I felt dizzy. I blinked. The lamp was unchanged, but there was something else. The faintest impression in the carpet, as if someone had just stepped back from it. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Eventually, I moved the couch, placed it facing away from that corner. But it didn't help. The shadows found other ways to stretch. One morning, I noticed dust patterns on the floor, strange semicircles, perfectly spaced, like something had been circling the lamp. I wiped them away. They returned the next day. I stopped inviting people over, stopped talking much. I knew how it sounded. I even considered moving. But something about that light, it held me, like a thread around the spine, not threatening, not exactly, but expectant. And the more I ignored it, the more I felt like it was waiting. For what? I didn't know. But one thing was certain. That lamp wasn't just shining anymore. It was watching. Sleep stopped coming. Not all at once, but in fragments, like the pieces of a dream slipping through a sieve. Every night, exactly at 3:09 the light dimmed, not off, just a breath softer, as if something was drinking it in, not draining it entirely, just feeding. I started losing things. First, it was a pen I always kept on the kitchen counter. Then, an old photograph, me and my mother at the beach, sun-faded and crinkled with time. Finally, a handkerchief she used to carry. I hadn't touched it in years. It disappeared from the drawer like it had been chosen. Each time something vanished, the light would flare, not in brightness, but in intensity. It hummed louder, cast deeper shadows, made the room feel stretched, like the walls were breathing with it. I tried to ignore it, pretended to sleep, pretended not to listen. But then the whispering started, soft, uneven, like someone just learning how to speak again after a long silence. At first, it asked, "Is someone there?" Always the same tone, curious, innocent almost. Then came another voice, still from the lamp's direction, but firmer. "Don't turn me off." The sound wasn't coming from inside my head. It vibrated against the floor, through the air, real but impossible. I unplugged everything in the room. The whispers still came. One night, I tried to leave, packed a bag, booked a hotel, spent 3 nights away from the apartment. I didn't sleep better, but the silence helped. I told myself I was imagining things, that I'd go back, and the light would be normal. Just a malfunctioning fixture, just stress. When I returned, Everything was exactly as I had left it. Nothing moved, no signs of forced entry. But when I stepped into the living room, I looked up. On the ceiling, directly above the lamp, was a mark, a handprint, dark, smudged, not painted, but pressed, like soot pressed into drywall from the other side. 5 fingers, too long, too thin, spread wide. It hadn't been there before. I stood staring at it for what felt like hours, heart thudding against my ribs. The light didn't flicker, didn't change. It just hummed, calm, watching. And from deep within the silence that filled the room after, a single phrase etched itself into my mind like a scratch against glass. You brought me here. I decided to destroy the lamp. I'd had enough. I grabbed a hammer, swung it hard again and again until my arms ached and my knuckles split. The metal bent, cracked, and collapsed. I set it on fire, doused it with lighter fluid, watched the flames curl up around its skeleton. It smoked, hissed, smelled like burning wires and old dust. I left it in pieces, felt something like relief, but when I came back the next morning, it was whole, upright, plugged in, lit, as if nothing had ever happened. I screamed. I pulled it from the wall and threw it out the window, heard it smash against the alley below. That night, I locked myself in the bedroom, deadbolted the door, shoved a chair under the knob. Still, I woke up to the light shining directly into my eyes. Somehow, it was back, positioned perfectly at the foot of my bed, aimed straight at me, and the door, still locked from the inside. My body was stiff, like I'd been lying that way for hours, arms at my sides, legs straight, eyes wide open. I didn't remember falling asleep. I didn't remember dreaming. But I remembered the voice, clear, right beside me, breathing across my skin like fog. If the light goes out, they'll forget me. I didn't know who they were, friends, family, strangers. I only knew that whoever they were, I wasn't one of them. Not anymore, because I hadn't left. And now I couldn't. The apartment no longer felt like mine. It was just a box with walls that listened and a light that never dimmed. I stopped trying to fight it. I stopped making calls. No one answered anyway. My voice always sounded strange on the phone. Slower, as if recorded through a tunnel. My own reflection became something I avoided, because one night I caught a glimpse of myself standing perfectly still while I stepped away. That's when I realized I hadn't truly moved in days, just circled the light, watched it, fed it, stayed within it. I was no longer just haunted by the lamp. I had become part of what it needed to stay on. A witness, a memory holder, a tether. I understood now. If the light ever went out, it wasn't just the voice that would disappear. It would be me. The last thread would snap, and whatever was still clinging to this place, whatever had tied itself to this glow, would vanish. I wasn't ready to fade. Not yet, so I let it shine. I stayed close. I listened. The lamp never turned off again, and neither did I.